I'm Rob Strand. It's time for my weekly visit with Kansas State Representative Adam Luster, Democrat from Frontenac, and Adam, guest this morning, John Barker out of Abilene, a Republican, and they're keeping you busy up in Topeka, aren't they?
Go ahead,
John. We're staying pretty busy with committee work. We've been on the floor. We're going on the floor today to debate a couple of bills, but it hasn't been too controversial.
It's not like working in a coal mine, Rob. I'm going to tell you that. It's been pretty light work up here, but
okay.
We can take care of our constituent concerns, and some of the committee work's still going on. So, we are somewhat busy, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And John's on a committee that's going to take a look at the racetracks. Is that correct?
John's the chairman of that committee.
I chair the Federal and State Affairs, which has to do with gaming, and we have a bill that Adam and I and a couple of other legislators introduced, House Bill 2545, which has to do with returning horse and dog racing back to the state of Kansas.
And, of course, that's right in Adam's backyard there, the old Camptown Park in Frontenac, and you're talking also over Wichita and Kansas City. And, boy, oh boy, it's been a long time, but trying to get something through where those places can reopen.
That's correct. And Abilene, we got to mention Abilene, which is the home of greyhounds. We have the National Registry for Greyhounds in Abilene, been there since 1946, and we have the largest population of farms that raise greyhounds.
And they have the Greyhound Hall of Fame as well there in Abilene.
We do.
Really, Rob, there's four. Well, in addition to Abilene, there's dog men all across the state that raise greyhounds and horses too. So there's two parts to this deal. There's horses and dogs, and so Wichita Greyhound Park would be affected, obviously, as well as Camptown. If we got that open, that's 400 jobs right there at that Greyhound Park. And there's a lot of other ancillary jobs that go along with that. But so you have Wichita and Frontenac, and then in Wyandotte County at the Woodlands, that'll be the horse facility or the horse racing facility. There will not be dogs ran up there. But there's another component that sometimes we fail to mention, and the other gentleman that helped us introduce the bill was Larry Hibbert. He's out of Toronto, Kansas. And there is a horse track at Eureka Downs. And so they'll be able to be, I don't want to use the word subsidized, but that's the word that comes to mind, through revenue from the other three facilities.
From the Fair Board.
Yeah.
They would be able to run their, they've been doing it for 120
Absolutely.
years at Eureka Downs. And so that would be economic, help to that area. It's 400 jobs to central Kansas because of our dogs. And, of course, we have a number of breeders who raise horses also. It's an agricultural bill, really.
It is.
It will help rural Kansas. And so we're enthusiastic about trying to get it passed. We don't want to, the state has got 4 casinos. They're state-owned. We want some private individuals to come in and it's a free market and let them compete. They're not asking for any subsidies from the state of Kansas. They just want an opportunity to open their tracks and run their animals. And it's good for veterinary services. It's good for agriculture, feed, of course, for dogs and horses are raised in the state of Kansas, so that helps farmers.
In the state of Oklahoma, horse racing alone, and they only have a couple of horse tracks down in Oklahoma, but it's a $3 billion industry.
Correct.
And they compete every year with, how many casinos we just have right there in northeastern Oklahoma by us, Rob. But they can compete, and we can do it here. So really what the purpose of the bill that we're going to have is to lower, it has to do with slot machines. And so this bill, which under current law they can have slot machines in the racing facilities. They call them racinos, and we're going to lower the percentage from
like 40%.
40%
down to what the casinos pay, which is like 22%,
so
which would make it
parity.
Profitable.
Yeah, and it's hard to argue that the racetrack has to send 40% of the revenue generated from the slot machines to the state, while the casinos only have to send 22. It just puts them on a level playing field. That's what we're trying.
And
to do.
it's an economic. I mean, we're talking about 4,500 jobs throughout the state that it would create, and then the privilege fee to open those. Of course, they pay a privilege fee on each of the slot machines, and then a revenue. So it's a revenue generating.
It's a big boost to the Kansas economy.
Yeah.
At a time, we need every dollar we can get.
Exactly.
And every job for that.
And
matter.
every job.
But I would say, Rob, when we talk about they is Phil Ruffin.
Right.
He owns all three facilities. He has the means to do this project, and you know, I'm concerned that if there's not going to be another person to come over and do that. So.
And he would probably have to write a check for about $100 million for the privilege fees to open those three facilities.
Right. Straight into the
and the good part
coffers.
about him, he's a Kansan, but he can write the check, and it's a good check.
Right. Not like Barker. He can write a $100 million check by any time he wants.
Hey, and also, what kind of timeline we looking at? I know you're working on it. You're ready to introduce it. What, gosh, any speculation how long this could take?
I'll refer that to the chairman of the committee.
Well, we're going to hear it on Tuesday. We've heard it in past years. We want to get a vote on the House floor and send it over to the Senate. Senate has a bill now from last year, a holdover bill. But, you know, we just got to get things moving. And Adam and I have been doing this, for 4 years?
Since I've been up here, since both of us have been up here, really.
Here.
I
We
can't believe
worked
you're
at it,
gone.
and of course the casinos are our biggest, state casinos are our biggest opponents because they think they're going to lose revenue. We think that they would not. It would in fact enhance it. If it would hurt them, then in Oklahoma they'd only have one or two casinos.
Right.
Or in Vegas they would only be one or two casinos.
We feel like it makes it a destination at these facilities. So, you know, when you come to Kansas, so we're not talking just about Kansans going and gambling like at many of our casinos. We're talking about drawing people from other states because it's something different. So racing is different. And when people get a little bored with racing, they go over to the casino. So it just like John said, it is an enhancement. And it draws more people and brings more dollars to that local economy. So,
and we raise horses in Kansas that compete. We raise dogs. I think slot machines are all made in Nevada.
right.
So, it's going to help the agricultural department. Farmers, they'll be raising hay. Of course, I've got friends who raise horses. They keep them in Oklahoma because they can't race them in Kansas. And I've had friends tell me that, you know, if we pass this, they'll bring their brood mares home, they'll bring their trainers home, and let them compete in Kansas.
Getting back to your question about timing, Rob, we have a thing called turnaround up here, which it's around the 22nd of February. So, in other words, whatever we pass in the House goes over to the Senate and vice versa. And so, if it's possible, we'd like to get it done by then, but that's not a drop-dead deadline. I mean, we can always do it after turnaround.
Yeah,
too.
because Fed and State is an exempt committee.
Right.
So we can work the bill up until the last day on the floor. So hopefully, with the Speaker's help and the Senate President's help, we can get it on the floor and at least get a vote and find out where the members are at.
Yeah.
Well, Kansas State lawmaker Adam Lusker out of Frontenac and guest John Barker out of Abilene. Appreciate you talking with us, and Adam, I'll talk to you again next week.
Hey, Rob, I look forward to it. I want to mention that my cameraman again this week is Eber Phelps, representative out of Hays, Kansas, and always a good hand to have around at 7:30 in the morning. Something else, Rob. Hopefully, you mentioned the governor was in town in Pittsburgh on Friday. He assured me that he'd love to do this show with us sometime. So here in the next few weeks, after the middle of February, I intend to have Governor Collier on the radio with you.
Sounds good. Look forward to it. Thanks again.
I'll keep you in suspense on next week's guest.